Madame and Her Special Friend is the 9th episode of the 3rd season of 2.5 Men, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Jake praying for his teacher to get sick because he has a maths test, and we have a pretty great quote from Alan. I rather like this. Alan says, "Reward without effort is meaningless." He has a point. I'd still like to win the lottery, but I think that's something that's always worth remembering. And Jake says, well, Uncle Charlie is happy. He's got a lot and he doesn't do anything. And Alan tries to explain that Charlie puts on a happy face but is a sad, lonely man. And at that moment, in runs Charlie from the beach with a girl. And this is actually April Bowlby. And this is interesting because, according to IMDb, the character at this point is called Kimber. I don't think her name is actually mentioned in the episode. But April Bowlby actually goes on to play Candy, I think later on in this actual season. So technically it's the first time we're seeing April Bowlby in the show, but potentially not the first time we're seeing Candy as a character. I just thought that was quite interesting. We then have a knock at the door. It is a woman called Norma from next door. She's played by Cloris Leachman, and she has come to ask, I guess demand, that Charlie's whore, in her words, she says the word whore, meaning whore, I think 3 times, and it's very funny. It's very well done. She wants her to move her little red sports car that's blocking her driveway. And Alan goes to talk to Charlie, and the character we know is called Kimber, to tell them to get out of the shower and move the car. They refuse, so Alan says he'll drive Norma to her apartment. And we cut to the next scene, and Norma is talking with Alan, and then Charlie comes downstairs and he ends up having a spat with Norma, and they fire shots at each other. It's kind of bitter, not completely clear why they don't like each other, but basically we can get the idea that they do not get along as neighbours. And honestly, it seems like Norma has some pretty valid reasons. When they're alone, Charlie asks Alan why he's escorting Norma to a charity event, and there we have established the main part of the episode, or the relationship between Alan and Norma. We find out that actually they're going to be spending some time together because things get pretty interesting. We then cut to the next scene, and we see Alan and Norma dancing outside after the charity event, and we have some suspense. Because Norma says, I want you to give some serious thought to my offer. And Alan says he will. And I love that we don't find out too much too soon. Things are definitely kept back until the right moment, and they say goodnight. And then Norma puckers her lips for a kiss, and Alan thinks, all right, fine. What harm can it do? He goes to give her a goodnight kiss, and she grabs onto his head. And Alan's face is rather funny. Cut to the following morning. And Alan is in the kitchen, and some flowers have been delivered by Norma. And Charlie rattles off so many age-related jokes. I think because the jokes are terrible, really cheesy, really corny, they can get away with it. Had they been what I would consider to be genuinely offensive age-related jokes, then it might have been a little bit awkward. But because the jokes are just terrible, but in a way that's kind of amusing, then I think it's not too bad. I think they managed to find a decent balance there. The comedy is more so about just how far Charlie is willing to take this, rather than the jokes themselves. We then find out what this offer was, because Norma wants to buy Alan the Alan Harper Healing Centre. Sounds like an amazing opportunity. However, it's kind of with the caveat that he sleeps with her, that they have a relationship. And Alan doesn't know what to do, because this seems like an amazing opportunity, but at what cost? And Charlie, well, he doesn't really help him, but he does ask Alan if he'd stick his penis into a beehive for however many $1 million, and helps him to try and find where he draws the line, just what he is willing to do to achieve his dreams. And I think it's an interesting position to be in. Alan and Norma are then discussing it over dinner. Really nice restaurant scene. We don't spend too much time there, but we spend enough time there to get what we need to out of it. And she's bought him a platinum Rolex, and she asks him, what do you want? And the next thing we know, Alan is coming home. Charlie is in bed. Alan goes to sit with Charlie and tells him he had sex with Norma. And he points out that actually it was great because she knew some stuff. And I kind of wonder who is most in the wrong here. Is Norma in the wrong for basically bribing Alan to get what she wants? Or is Alan in the wrong for sleeping with somebody just to get what he wants? I don't have an answer to that question, but it's definitely very thought-provoking. And Alan then says, and I didn't see this coming, I have seen this episode before, couldn't remember how it played out. And then when Alan said, I don't think I'm going to be getting the building, I kind of realised what was happening next. And it made sense because Alan was almost kind of monotone. Not quite monotone, but he was very flat in his delivery. He wasn't very animated. And when we find out that Norma died, that kind of makes sense. And then this, again, I think this was unpredictable. We then find out, as Charlie says, you get to keep the Rolex, I got to keep the piano. And Alan asks, what has your piano got to do with anything? And we find out that that's why Norma hated Charlie, because she offered him a piano, he slept with her, and as Charlie said, he only needed one piano, so he stopped sleeping with her. He ended whatever the relationship was, and that's why she hated him. To be fair, I think the other reasons she listed off for Charlie being a bad neighbour were also valid, but yeah, that'll do it. But again, yes, Charlie was using her, but at the same time, sounds like she was bribing him as well. You do this for me, I'll give you a piano. So neither of them were particularly in the right there. And the final scene is okay. I don't think it's that interesting. I actually think we could have ended it with the scene with Alan and Charlie. I think that would have been a more amusing way to end things. But the final scene is Charlie and Jake fighting over what they're watching on television. So Jake threatens to pray that the team Charlie has bet on loses. And, well, I don't mind how it played out. It wasn't too bad. I don't think it's the strongest or the most funny ending. But that being said, it's okay. It's not too bad. But all things considered, I think Madame and her special friend is a pretty decent episode. I think Cloris Leachman was brilliant as Norma. In fact, I wish she'd come into it a little bit earlier. Or I wish she hadn't died. Because I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an ongoing feud between Charlie and Norma, just as something that kind of crops up every now and then. I think that could have been really fun and very entertaining. But what we got of Norma wasn't too bad. And obviously it's nice to see the introduction, kind of April Bowlby in the series. Because, well, I have mixed feelings about Candy, but we'll get onto that when she crops up. I'm pretty sure it's later on in this season. This is a good episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Really great suspense. Definitely funny a lot of the time. Madame and her special friend is a pretty decent episode of 2.5 Men.